Welcome to English Podcast.
I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English easy. So Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is attentive. Then we will continue with awkward and in return for. Then have to do with something. And the final one is so far, so good.
Okay, let's start with the first word.
The first word is attentive.
Attentive.
Attentive is an adjective that means paying close attention to something or someone and being careful to listen or watch.
When we say someone is attentive, we mean they are focusing and listening carefully.
Exactly. Let me give an example sentence. The students were very attentive during the interesting science lesson. It means that the students listened carefully and paid close attention to the science lesson. Now it's your turn, Lisa. Can you give us another example?
Sure. The waiter was attentive to the customer's needs during the meal. It means that the waiter carefully watched and listened to what the customers wanted during their meal.
That's right. Now, let's talk about how to use this word. We often use attentive with the preposition to, like in my example, attentive to the customer's needs.
Good point, Eric. Now let's hear a short dialogue using the word attentive.
Your son, Tom, is a pleasure to have in class.
Really? That's good to hear.
Yes, he's always very attentive during lessons.
I'm glad to hear he's attentive. He sometimes struggles to focus at home.
Well, he's one of my most attentive students. He always listens carefully.
That was a good example, Lisa. It shows how we use attentive to describe someone who listens and focuses well.
Yes. And it also shows that being attentive is important in school and for learning. So now we've heard attentive in a conversation. Let's talk a little about how this word is used. Eric, what would you say about attentive? Is it a common word?
I think it's common in everyday speech, especially when talking about school, work, or being polite. It's a bit more formal than saying someone is just paying attention.
I agree. You'll often hear people say someone is attentive, like a waiter in a restaurant who makes sure everything is perfect for the guests. It's a polite and positive word.
Right. You could say, the waiter was very attentive, or she was an attentive listener. It's a great word to use when you want to show someone is being very careful and considerate.
Exactly. Well, I think we've covered attentive pretty well. Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, let's do that. Remember, listeners, being attentive while learning English will help you improve faster.
Great reminder, Eric. Okay, what is the next word?
The next word is awkward.
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 Eric, can you tell us what awkward means?
Sure, Lisa. Awkward is an adjective. It means feeling uncomfortable or not knowing what to do in a situation. You can feel awkward when you don't know what to say or how to act.
Sometimes when we don't know how to behave or what to say, we feel awkward.
Let's use it in a sentence. My sentence is, there was an awkward silence after John told a bad joke. It means that there was an uncomfortable or embarrassing quiet moment after John's joke.
Great example, Eric. Here's my sentence. It was awkward when I dropped my phone during the meeting. It means that I felt uncomfortable because everyone was looking at me when I dropped my phone. It was a little embarrassing.
Okay, here's an example dialogue using the word awkward.
Did you have a good time at the party?
Not really. I felt awkward because I didn't know anyone.
Oh no, that's awkward. Next time I'll introduce you to more people.
Thanks. That would help. I hate feeling awkward in big groups.
As you can see, both Sarah and John used the word awkward in the conversation. John felt uncomfortable at the party because he didn't know anyone.
Now, let's have a short conversation about the word. Eric, do you think awkward is a common word?
Yes, I think it's very common, especially when talking about social situations. Many people feel awkward when they don't know others at an event or when something embarrassing happens.
I agree. Would you say it's formal or informal?
I think it's more informal. We use it a lot in everyday conversation, like when we're talking with friends or family.
Exactly. You wouldn't really use it in a formal report or essay, but it's perfect for casual conversations. Also, do you think we can use awkward to describe both people and situations?
Yes, you can say, I am feeling awkward, or the situation is awkward. Both are correct.
That's a good point. So remember, awkward is a useful word for describing uncomfortable situations or feelings, and it's used mostly in informal contexts.
Good summary, Lisa. Well, that wraps up our second word, awkward, for today.
Okay. Well, what is the next word, Eric?
The next word is in return for.
In return for.
In return for. This phrase is used when someone does something and you do something back for them. It shows an exchange. One action happens because of another.
That's right. When we say in return for, we do something for someone. And they do something else for us in turn. Let's give 2 example sentences now to understand it better. Eric, what's your example?
Here's my example. He gave me a ride to work in return for helping him with his homework. It means that he drove you to work because you helped him with his homework earlier. Lisa, can you give us another example?
Sure. Here's mine. She gave me her notes, and I bought her a coffee in return. It means that she helped me by giving me her notes, and I did something nice back for her. I bought her coffee in return.
Now, let's talk about how to use this phrase. We can use in return alone, or in return for, followed by a noun or ing form.
Good grammar point, Eric. Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the phrase in return.
Thank you for watering my plants while I was on vacation, Tom.
You're welcome, Mrs. Brown. It was no trouble at all.
I'd like to do something for you in return. How about I bake you a pie?
Oh, that's very kind of you.
It's the least I can do in return for your help.
Well, in that case, I'd love a pie. Thank you.
That was a good example, Lisa. It shows that in return can be used both with and without for in a sentence. Like in the dialogue, I'd like to do something for you, in return or in return for your help.
Good explanation. So, Eric, do you think in return is a common phrase in English?
Yes, it's quite common. People use it often when they're talking about doing nice things for each other.
Yeah, I agree. Is it more formal or informal?
I'd say it's neutral. We can use it in casual conversations with friends and in more formal situations. And I think it's an important phrase for English learners to know because it helps learners express the idea of giving back or saying thank you with actions.
That's right, Eric. It's a key phrase for talking about social interactions and being polite. Okay, well, I think we've covered in return for pretty well. Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, let's do that, Lisa. The next word is have to do with something.
Have to do with something.
Have to do with something. Have to do with something is an idiom. It means one thing is related to or connected with another thing. It is used when we talk about a connection between two things.
Yes, for example, if something has to do with another thing, it means there is a relationship between them.
Exactly. Now let's give some example sentences. I'll go first.
Sure, go ahead, Eric.
Here's my sentence. Her bad mood has to do with the long day she had at work. It means that she was in a bad mood because she had a difficult and tiring day at work. One thing, her mood, has to do with the other thing, the long day at work.
Great example. Here's mine. The meeting has to do with the new project we're starting next month. This means that the meeting is about the new project. The topic of the meeting has to do with the new project.
Right. Now, let's hear a short dialogue to show how it's used in conversation.
Do you know why we're having this meeting today?
I think it has to do with the new project we're starting soon.
Oh, that makes sense. I thought it had to do with budget cuts.
In the dialogue, Sarah and Tom use has to do with to talk about why they are having a meeting.
Yes, and Sarah found out the meeting had to do with the new project.
So, Eric, do you think have to do with is a common phrase in English?
Oh, definitely. It's very common in both formal and informal situations. You'll hear it in everyday conversation, at work, and even in news or articles.
I agree. Would you say it's formal or informal, Eric?
I'd say it's more informal. You hear it a lot when people are talking casually, but you can also use it in work settings. It's not super formal, but it's not too casual either.
It's a really helpful phrase because it's so flexible. You can use it in many different contexts, and it works well when you're trying to explain connections between things.
Exactly. So, remember, when you want to talk about how one thing is connected or related to another, you can say it has to do with that thing.
Well, we have reached the last word of today. Can you tell us the last word, Eric?
Sure, Lisa. The last word today is so far, so good.
So far, so good.
So far, so good is an idiom. It's used to say that things are going well up to now or that there hasn't been any problem yet.
When we say so far, so good, we mean everything is okay until this point in time.
Exactly. Let's give some example sentences to show how it's used. Here's my sentence. We've been driving for 2 hours, and so far, so good. No traffic. It means that for the last 2 hours of driving, everything has been going smoothly. There haven't been any problems like traffic jams, so I say so far, so good. Now it's your turn, Lisa.
Here's my example. How's your new job? So far, so good. I like my coworkers and the work is interesting. It means that, up to this point, the new job is going well, and there are no complaints or issues. Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the phrase, so far, so good.
How's your science project coming along, Tom?
So far, so good, Mrs. Johnson. I finished the research part.
That's great to hear. Any challenges?
Not yet. So far, so good with everything.
Excellent. Keep up the good work.
That was a good example. It shows how we use this phrase to give a positive update on a situation.
Yes, and it also shows that so far so good can be used multiple times in a conversation.
Absolutely. So, Eric, do you think so far so good is a common phrase in English?
Yes, it's very common. People use it often when talking about ongoing situations or projects.
Is it more informal?
I'd say it's quite informal. We use it a lot in casual conversations, but it might not be suitable for very formal writing.
Good point. Is there anything you would add, Eric?
Yes, Lisa. It's really easy to use in different contexts. You can say it about your work, a trip, or even how you're feeling during the day. It's simpler than saying, everything is going well until now.
Thank you for your short summary, Eric. Well, I think we've reached the end of our today's podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful.
Thanks for listening. Keep practicing your English and stay tuned.
Bye for now. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English easy. So Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is unique. Then we will continue with reliable and to praise, then to stand out. And the final one is at the drop of a hat.
Okay, let's start with the first word, Eric.
Today's first word is unique.
Unique.
Unique is an adjective. It means one of a kind or not similar to anything else.
That's right. When we say something is unique, we mean it's special, and there's nothing else like it.
Exactly. Let's break it down with a couple of examples. I'll start.
Go ahead, Eric.
Here's my example. Her style of painting is unique. No one else paints like her. It means that her style of painting is special and different from others. Now it's your turn, Lisa. Can you give us another example?
Here's mine. The city has many unique buildings that you won't find anywhere else in the world. It means that the city's buildings are special and different. The design of the buildings is something you won't see in any other city.
Now, let's talk about how to use this word. Unique is an adjective, so we use it to describe nouns. We often say something is unique or has a unique quality.
Good point. Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the word unique.
Wow, look at that painting. It's so colorful and strange.
You're right. It's really unique. I've never seen anything like it before.
The artist must have a unique style. All of her paintings are so different from others.
Definitely. That's what makes her art so special and unique.
That was a good example, Lisa. It shows how we use unique to describe something special or one of a kind.
Yes, and it also shows that we can use unique to talk about styles or qualities, not just objects.
That's right. Lisa, would you say unique is a common word in everyday conversations?
Yes, I'd say. It's fairly common, especially when people want to describe something as special or different. You might hear it when talking about art, travel, people's talents, or even food.
I agree. You can say something like, this idea is unique, or she has a unique talent. It's a nice way to compliment something or someone. Also, it's a versatile word. So, next time you want to talk about something very special, say it's unique.
That's right. Well, I think we've covered unique pretty well. Shall we move on to our next word?
Let's do that. The next word is reliable.
Reliable.
Reliable. Reliable is an adjective that means someone or something can be trusted to do what is expected. If a person is reliable, you can trust them. If a thing is reliable, it works well and doesn't break often.
Yes, exactly. We usually use reliable to talk about people, machines, or good services.
Now, let's look at the first example sentence. John is a reliable friend. He always helps me when I need it. It means that John is a person I can trust. He always does what he says he will, and you can always expect help from him.
Here's another example. This car is very reliable. It never breaks down even after many years. This means it works well and doesn't have problems often so that you can drive it for a long time without problems.
Yes, and remember, reliable is usually used in a positive way. It's a compliment to call someone reliable. It shows they are trustworthy and dependable.
Good summary. Now let's move on to a short dialogue to show how reliable can be used in a conversation.
We need to make sure we give the project to someone reliable.
I think Sarah is the best choice. She's always on time and finishes her work. She's very reliable.
I agree. Let's ask Sarah to take the lead.
In the dialogue, Anna and Tom discuss giving the project to someone reliable. They trust Sarah because she is responsible and dependable.
Yes, this shows how reliable is often used to describe people who do a good job and can be trusted. It's a great word for describing people or things that do not disappoint you.
So, Eric, do you think reliable is a common word in English?
Oh, definitely. It's a very common word, especially in both work and personal situations. You'll hear it when people are talking about someone they trust or something that works well. It's not too formal or informal, so you can use it in many different contexts.
I agree. Being reliable is important for people, whether you're talking about a friend, a car, or a service.
Exactly. So remember, when you want to say you trust someone or something, you can use the word reliable.
Okay, that's it for the word reliable. Let's move on to our next word.
Sure. The next word is to praise.
To praise.
To praise.
To praise is a verb that means to say positive things about someone or something, especially when they have done something good or deserve it. When you praise someone, you tell them they did a great job.
That's right. Praise is used when you want to show that you are happy with someone's actions or work. Now, let's look at the first example sentence. The teacher praised the student for his hard work on the project. It means that the teacher makes positive compliments or says nice things about his effort. That's what praise means.
Exactly. Here's another example. Everyone praised the chef for the delicious meal. This means that people said nice things to the chef because they enjoyed the meal.
Let's talk a little more about how to use to praise. We also often use it with the preposition for to explain why someone is being praised. For example, she was praised for her hard work.
And there's also a noun form, praise. For example, the employee received a lot of praise for his project. This means people said good things about the project he worked on.
Now, let's hear a short dialogue to show how praise can be used in a conversation.
I heard your boss praised you for finishing the project early. That's great.
Yeah, it is good to be praised. I worked really hard on it.
You deserve the praise. Keep up the good work.
It's nice dialogue, isn't it, Eric?
Yes, and it is clear how to use praise and in which situation it can be used.
I agree. So, Eric, would you say to praise is a common word in everyday conversation?
I'd say it's somewhat common, but more in formal or polite situations. You might hear it in workplaces, schools, or when talking about achievements. Instead of praise, people sometimes say things like compliments or say nice things in casual situations.
I agree. You often hear it in more formal settings, like when teachers, bosses, or judges talk about someone's good work. It's a positive word, and it's a good way to show respect and appreciation.
Absolutely. So if someone did something great, don't hesitate to praise them for their hard work.
That's great advice. Well, I think we have explained praise pretty enough. Let's move on to the next word.
Okay, the next phrase we're explaining today is stand out.
Stand out.
Stand out. Stand out is a phrasal verb that means being easily noticed or different in a way that catches attention.
Yes, when something stands out, it's special or different from the rest. It could stand out because of how it looks, how good it is, or how unique it is.
Exactly. Let's give some examples to help explain it better. Here's my example. Her bright red jacket made her stand out from the crowd. It means that because of her bright red jacket, everyone could notice her easily in a large group of people. She looked different from the others, so she stood out.
That's a great example. Here's mine. His talent for playing the piano really makes him stand out from other musicians. It means that his ability to play the piano is special, and he's different from other musicians. His piano skills stand out, meaning they are noticeable and unique.
Perfect. So, as you can see, stand out is used when someone or something is different or better than others and can be easily noticed. It's often positive, meaning it's something special.
Yes, and grammatically, we usually use stand out by itself or with the preposition from, like stand out from others or stand out from the crowd. This shows what or who you are comparing to.
Exactly. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue to show how stand out is used in conversation.
This painting really stands out. I love the bright colors.
Yeah, it's the most interesting one here. The colors and style make it stand out from the rest.
I agree. It's hard not to notice it.
In this dialogue, Anna says the painting stands out because of its bright colors. This means the painting is easy to notice and different from the others.
And Tom adds that the colors and style make the painting stand out from the rest. This means that compared to the other paintings, this one is the most noticeable.
So, Eric, what would you say about stand out? Is it a common phrasal verb in everyday conversation?
Yes, I'd say it's very common. You can use it to talk about people, things, or even special or different ideas. It's a flexible phrase and can be used in casual or formal conversations. And remember, it's usually a positive thing when something stands out.
Absolutely. So, next time you see something special or different, don't forget to say it stands out.
That's great advice.
Well, that's all for today's word stand out. We have reached our last word today. What is the last word, Eric?
Today's last word is at the drop of a hat.
At the drop of a hat.
At the drop of a hat is an idiom that means very quickly or without any hesitation.
When we say someone does something at the drop of a hat, we mean they do it immediately or with very little notice.
Exactly. Let's give some example sentences to understand better. I can't just travel at the drop of a hat. I need to ask my boss.
It means that the person cannot travel immediately or without planning and asking his boss to take time off.
Good explanation, Lisa. Now it's your turn. Can you give us another example?
She would travel to Paris at the drop of a hat, if she had the chance. It means that if she had the opportunity to go to Paris, she would go right away, without thinking twice. She wouldn't need any time to decide. Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the phrase at the drop of a hat.
Hey, Mike, want to go to the beach this weekend?
Sure. You know me, I can go to a beach at the drop of a hat.
Great. I'll invite John too. Do you think he'll come?
Probably not. John never does anything at the drop of a hat. He likes to plan everything.
That was a good example, Eric. It shows how we use this phrase to describe someone ready to do things quickly and spontaneously.
Yes, and it also shows the contrast with someone who doesn't do things at the drop of a hat.
Absolutely. So, Eric, what would you say about at the drop of a hat? Is it formal or is it common in English?
It's fairly common, especially in casual conversations. People use it when they want to emphasize how quickly or easily something happens.
That's true. What about being formal or informal?
I'd say it's quite informal. We use it mostly in casual speech with friends or family, not in formal writing or presentations. Additionally, it's a colorful way to express the idea of doing something very quickly. It's more interesting than just saying very fast or immediately.
That's right. It adds flavor to the language and helps learners sound more natural in casual conversations. Okay, well, I think we've covered at the drop of a hat pretty well and reached the end of the podcast today.
Yes, Lisa, I hope our followers found today's episode helpful.
I hope so, Eric. Okay, thanks for listening. And keep practicing your English.
Stay tuned and bye for now.